Over the past year, historians have been piecing together clues about its origins and discovered that this piece of cloth was once part of a skirt that belonged to Queen Elizabeth I.
Powerful leaders always have skeletons in their closets, but this royal secret was actually hidden inside the Queen herself. Using next-generation technology, a team of experts reconstructed the complete DNA of Elizabeth I. They found something that should not exist in her genetic markers, and it explains why she was so obsessed with her white makeup and red wigs. What most people do not realize is that the Tudor legacy is based on a massive lie. If these findings are accurate, the woman who ruled England was concealing a truth that would have ended her power in a single day. History shattered by new genetic findings. This is a key detail that most historians missed because getting anywhere near her body is basically impossible. Taking a queen out of her grave is unthinkable and would require an act of parliament, royal consent, and a massive public outcry. In short, it was never going to happen. Everyone assumed that meant the mystery would stay buried forever, but this team had a different plan. What most historians dismissed as old artifacts like rings, gloves, and letters, the researchers saw as biological time capsules. They brought a new weapon to the hunt, an artificial intelligence they nicknamed Argus after the giant from Greek myths. For 5 years, the team quietly traveled the world, taking microscopic samples from artifacts with the strongest claims to being real. We are talking about skin cells thinner than dust that no human eye could see. They narrowed it down to 3 key items. First was the Shecker's ring, a locket Elizabeth rarely removed, which contained a tiny lock of hair. Second was a pair of her ceremonial gloves that still held trace skin cells in the fabric. Finally, they found a state letter to the King of France, sealed with wax and pressed by the thumb of the Queen herself. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that these samples were a total nightmare to work with. They were over 400 years old and severely damaged by time. Any normal lab would have hit a dead end, but that is where the AI took over. Its first job was filtration, comparing the damaged DNA fragments against verified genetic profiles from the royal bloodline. Billions of data points later, the technology reached a staggering conclusion. With 99% certainty, the hair, skin cells, and a single cell trapped in the wax all came from the same woman. Then came the dangerous part. Using a process called genetic temporal modeling, the AI treated those fragments like a shattered book. By comparing them to tens of thousands of genomes from that time, it learned what the DNA should look like and began filling in the gaps piece by piece. The result was a fully reconstructed virtual genome of Queen Elizabeth I. It was a genetic instruction book for a woman who passed away in 1603, and buried inside it was something no one was prepared to see. Scientific analysis uncovers hidden biological reality. The team's initial goal was to solve the mystery of how the Queen actually met her end. Her final weeks were famously bizarre and honestly quite terrifying for those around her. After her closest friends passed away, she fell into a deep and immovable sadness. She refused to eat, she spoke of spirits in the room, and most strangely, she refused to lie down in her bed. For her last 4 days, she stood upright, supported by her exhausted ladies-in-waiting, or sat on cushions piled high on the floor. She would hold her finger in her mouth or point at it in agony, but refused to speak a single word. Historians have long blamed this on blood poisoning from her famous white makeup. This iconic white paint was caked on her face, sometimes over an inch thick, to hide her smallpox scars. This cosmetic was a deadly mix of white lead and vinegar. What many people do not realize is that it was so corrosive it would burn the skin, which meant she had to apply even more to hide the new marks. It also caused hair loss, which is why she wore those famous red wigs. It was a vicious cycle that slowly drained her life. But here is the catch. The lead poisoning was only a small part of the story. The simulation showed genetic markers indicating she was uniquely susceptible to heavy metal poisoning. Her body simply could not process and flush out the lead like a normal person. Her liver would have been scarred and shrunken, causing her immense pain. But that was not even the shocking part. The lead poisoning, it turns out, was just a symptom of a much deeper secret. The technology found something else, a core genetic secret hidden deep in her X chromosome. This secret explains why she wore the makeup, why she never married, and why she was so pathologically obsessed with her image. The researchers uncovered a genetic condition and a physical abnormality that redefines her entire life. This single finding is so explosive it is hard to grasp because it changes everything we know about her. Her entire political identity was not just a clever strategy, it was an elaborate lifelong cover-up for a biological secret that would have destroyed her reign. Yeah, about that, the biggest mystery of her life is right there in her nickname. For her entire 44-year reign, being the Virgin Queen was her political brand. She was not just a ruler, she was a mythical figure married to her country. This identity dominated European politics and kept powerful kings guessing for decades. She famously flirted with a long list of suitors, like King Philip of Spain and a French prince she nicknamed her Frog. She even strung along her childhood friend Robert Dudley for many years, but she never said yes to any of them. Historians always argued this was a masterclass in playing her enemies against each other to keep England free. It was genius, but the genetic analysis suggests a different story. It suggests this was not just a brilliant choice, it was a biological necessity. According to the report, the AI flagged a cluster of rare mutations on her X chromosome. These markers are consistent with a condition known today as androgen insensitivity syndrome. This is a condition where a person is genetically male, but their body is blind to male hormones, so they develop physically as a female. Hidden truths behind the Virgin Queen identity. The crazy part is that if this model is correct, it means the Queen was genetically speaking male. In the 16th century, the number one job of a monarch was to produce a healthy heir to keep the family line going. If this secret had gotten out, it would have been the end of her power immediately. Her rivals, especially Mary Queen of Scots, would have used it to declare her a monster and unfit to rule. There would have been a civil war overnight, and her reign would have been over before it even started. So, she and her most trusted advisors created a new identity. Since she could not be a mother, she became a goddess. She turned her biological situation into her greatest political strength. The thing is, this also explains her obsession with her appearance. That white lead makeup was not just about scars. The report notes that her famous long and elegant fingers are actually a common physical marker for this exact condition. The lead paint was like armor, a way to hide her physical self and present a perfect, untouchable icon to the world. Think about her most famous speech where she told her troops she had the heart and stomach of a king. Many people are obsessed with this new theory, suggesting this was her telling a literal truth. She was telling the world that her biology was different. This secret was one she had to protect at all costs, and it defined her famous loneliness. She could never let anyone get close enough to know the truth about her body. This secret alone is enough to change history, but as the technology continued to analyze her genetic code, it found something even bigger. It found a secret that was not just about her condition, but about her very blood. The research team did not just look at her health, they looked at her heritage. They analyzed her paternal and maternal bloodlines to confirm her place in the dynasty, and what they found is a scandal 450 years in the manor. To be perfectly clear, the science confirmed her mother's line. The DNA passed down from her mother was a perfect match for the Boleyn family. There is no doubt that she was the daughter of Queen Anne Boleyn. But here is the deal. The scandal is entirely on her father's side. You see, King Henry VIII tore his country apart just to get a male heir. He broke away from the church and went through 6 different wives because he was obsessed with continuing his bloodline. He had Elizabeth's mother executed because he claimed she was unfaithful and committed treason. History has always treated these as lies told by a mean king who was tired of his wife. But the new report just threw a massive wrench into that story. The geneticists ran the Queen's genome against the established markers of her father's family. These markers come from the confirmed body of Richard III and other known relatives. The result was a total shock because there was zero match. Let us be crystal clear about what this means. The simulation concluded that King Henry VIII was not her biological father. The implications are almost too massive to process. It would mean the greatest monarch in English history was not a member of the royal family she claimed to lead. Royal lineage questioned by virtual DNA reconstruction. Basically, if she was not his daughter, she had no legitimate claim to the throne at all. By the laws of her time, she was a usurper. This reframes her entire life and makes you wonder if she actually knew the truth. Her father declared her illegitimate when she was just 2 years old, and she spent her whole childhood fighting to be recognized. Many people are crazy about this new theory, suggesting her incredible drive and iron were fueled by the secret knowledge that she was a fake. She had to prove she was worthy even if her blood was not royal. So, if Henry was not the father, who was? The report cannot give a name, but it notes that the DNA shows a strong match to a noble family in her mother's circle. The leading candidates are Henry Percy, the man her mother loved before the king, and a court musician named Mark Smeaton. What many people overlook is that Smeaton was one of the men executed along with her mother. At the time, everyone thought he was just tortured into lying, but this data suggests he might have been telling the truth. This secret was the ultimate political bomb. It is not that simple, though, because the technology was not finished with her yet. Its final shock had nothing to do with her life, it was about how she reached her end. The research team ran one last experiment called a virtual autopsy. Using the reconstructed genome, they built a precise digital replica of her body, her organs, and her blood chemistry. Then they replayed her final weeks in detail, and what it revealed pointed not to a natural illness, but to a plot. The official story has always sounded believable. She was 69 years old, which was very old for that time. She was grieving the loss of her friends and was under massive amounts of stress. Add in the decades of lead poisoning, and the explanation seems complete. Her strange behavior, like standing for 4 days straight and pointing at her mouth, was written off as delirium. But the AI disagreed with the historians. It simulated the exact levels of lead her body would have absorbed, and while the lead damaged her, it could not explain all of her symptoms. It could not explain the intense muscle pain or the burning sensation in her mouth. So, the researchers ran a full toxicology scan, testing thousands of poisons against her virtual body. What it identified was chilling. They found a sophisticated blend of 2 deadly plants. This was not a crude poison like arsenic that would be easy to find. It was subtle and diabolical. In the simulation, small doses caused a fever and confusion that looked exactly like a natural illness. Meanwhile, the other part of the poison attacked her nervous system. It began as a burning pain in the mouth, which explains why she kept pointing there but could not speak. Then came the agonizing muscle stiffness that made lying down feel unbearable. Standing was the only way she could get any relief. Finally, over several days, the poison shut down her breathing. She did not simply die in her sleep. According to the model, she was slowly suffocated while she was fully conscious. This was not a sickness. It was an assassination. Could the greatest queen in history actually be a total fraud? If her DNA is right, everything we know is a lie. Like, subscribe, and tell us your thoughts below.